She
I
slipped
feel like
past
I'm
the
in a
velvet
fairy
ropes in a
tale.
thrift store mask and a borrowed gown of liquid gold, heart hammering like a
You
thief's.
look like a princess.
One night of pretend, she told herself. Just one. But the billionaire's gaze found her across the candlelit ballroom, and in that instant, the game of masks became the moment his guarded heart cracked wide open. Welcome back, my amazing family. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Your love and support mean the world, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's get right into the story. Nuella Stacy's sneakers squeaked against the wet pavement as she stared up at the wrought iron gates of Blackwood Manor. Halloween wind whipped the hem of her coat, the one she'd worn to 3 double shifts that week, and she clutched the plastic invitation tighter. The paper was crisp, edges curling from the rain, but the gold-embossed crest looked real enough to fool the security guards, if she could keep her knees from buckling. 2 years of scraping tips at the diner on 5th and the jazz lounge on 112th had taught her how to smile through exhaustion, how to memorize orders and fake laughter for bigger gratuities. Tonight, though, the skill felt flimsier than the mask pressed against her cheekbones. The mask was cheap gold foil over cardboard, bought for $6 at a Harlem thrift shop that smelled of mothballs and old perfume. The gown beneath her coat was borrowed from her roommate, Keisha, who'd worn it once to a cousin's wedding and swore it still carried good luck. Luck. Nuella almost laughed. She needed a miracle. Behind those gates, Damian Blackwood, 34 white, heir to an empire built on steel, silicon, and secrets, was hosting his annual Halloween masquerade. The guest list read like a Forbes ranking: senators, tech moguls, a pop star who'd once dated a prince. Nuella had seen the leaked photos online: chandeliers dripping crystals, champagne fountains, ice sculptures melting into swans. She'd stared at the images on her cracked phone screen during her break, grease from the diner's fryer still under her nails, and felt something reckless ignite. Just one night, she'd whispered to her reflection in the lounge's smudged mirror. One night to remember what it felt like to be someone else. Now, standing on the curb, the city's orange streetlights haloing the fog, she shrugged off her coat and let it fall into the gutter. The gown spilled over her hips like molten metal, catching the glow of passing headlights. She smoothed the fabric, took a breath that tasted of exhaust and courage, and stepped forward. Invitation, the guard barked. He was built like a linebacker, earpiece glinting beneath his black cap. Nuella lifted her chin, the way Keisha had taught her, shoulders back, eyes steady, like you belong. She handed over the card. The guard scanned it beneath a red light. For one terrifying second, she imagined alarms, handcuffs, her face splashed across tomorrow's gossip sites. Local waitress arrested for fraud. The light blinked green. Name? He asked. Stacy, she said, voice steady despite the tremor in her fingers. Nuella Stacy. He waved her through. The gates parted with a mechanical sigh, and Nuella walked into a world that smelled of orchids and money. Inside, the mansion sprawled like a cathedral of wealth. Marble floors gleamed beneath her borrowed heels. Keisha's too, a half size too small, already pinching. Guests drifted past in costumes that cost more than her annual rent: a woman in a diamond-encrusted peacock, feathers brushing the ceiling, a man whose vampire cape was stitched from actual velvet, crimson lining shimmering like blood. Masks concealed identities, but not status. Nuella could spot the difference in posture, the way some necks tilted with entitlement, others with practiced deference. She snatched a flute of champagne from a passing tray, the bubbles sharp against her tongue. Real crystal, not the plastic cups at the lounge. She drained half in one swallow, then regretted it. Liquid courage on an empty stomach was a rookie mistake. Music pulsed from hidden speakers, a haunting cello overlaid with electronic beats. Nuella moved deeper, letting the crowd swallow her. She passed a roulette table where chips clinked like bones, a string quartet sawing out a minor key, a woman laughing so hard her feathered mask slipped. No one looked at Nuella twice. The mask did its job. She found a balcony overlooking the ballroom and leaned against the balustrade, breath fogging in the chill. Below, the dance floor swirled with color, golds and scarlets and midnight blues. At the center stood a man in a phantom mask, black silk tailored to broad shoulders, gloved hands clasped behind his back. Even from here, Nuella felt the weight of his presence, the way conversations hushed when he turned. Damian Blackwood. She'd seen his face in magazines, sharp jaw, storm gray eyes, the kind of bone structure that made photographers weep. But the photos never captured the stillness. He didn't fidget or posture. He simply existed, a dark star pulling everything into his orbit. Nuella's pulse stuttered. She should leave. Find a quiet corner, sip champagne, pretend for an hour, then slip out before midnight. That was the plan. Instead, she descended the staircase. The phantom watched her approach. Up close, he was taller than she'd expected, the mask casting shadows across cheekbones that could cut glass. His cologne was subtle, cedar and something colder, like winter air. "You're late," he said. Voice low, precise. Amusement laced the edges. "Traffic," Nuella lied, tilting her head so the mask hid her smile. "Dressed like that, I'd have braved a hurricane." His gaze swept over her gown, lingering on the curve of her waist, the bare shoulder where Keisha's strap had slipped. "Gold suits you." Heat flared in her chest. "It's borrowed. Everything beautiful is, at some point." He extended a gloved hand. "Dance." Nuella hesitated. One dance. Then she'd vanish. She placed her hand in his. His grip was warm, firm, guiding her into the swirl of bodies. The music shifted, slower now, a waltz threaded with longing. Damien moved like he'd been born to it, effortless, commanding. Nuella followed, her diner-honed balance keeping her upright despite the heels. Their masks brushed, gold against black. "You're not afraid," he murmured. "Of what?" "Being seen." Nuella laughed, the sound surprising them both. "Tonight, I'm invisible." No, his thumb traced the inside of her wrist, a feather-light touch that sent sparks up her arm. "Tonight, you're the only one here." The song ended too soon. Applause rippled, but Damien didn't release her. Around them, guests whispered behind fans and feathers. "Who are you?" he asked. Nuella's heart hammered. Lie. Tell him a name that belonged in this world. Instead, she heard herself say, "Someone who shouldn't be here." His eyes narrowed behind the mask, intrigued. "And yet you are." A woman in silver approached, diamonds flashing at her throat. "Damien, darling, the ambassador's asking for you." He didn't look away from Nuella. "Tell him I'm occupied." The woman's lips thinned, but she retreated. Nuella stepped back, pulse racing. "You should go." "Should," he echoed. "But I won't." She turned, weaving through the crowd before he could follow. The champagne had made her bold, but reality was creeping in. Security cameras, guest lists, the inevitable moment when someone realized she didn't belong. She found a side corridor, dimly lit, tapestries muffling the music. Leaning against cool stone, she pressed a hand to her chest, trying to slow her breathing. Footsteps echoed. Damien appeared at the end of the hall, phantom mask stark against the shadows. "You run well," he said. "I'm practiced." He closed the distance slowly, giving her time to bolt. She didn't. When he reached her, he lifted a hand, not touching, just hovering near her cheek. "Take off the mask," he said softly. Nuella's fingers trembled as she obeyed. The foil cracked slightly, revealing her face, high cheekbones, full lips, eyes the color of dark honey. Damien's breath caught. "Nuella," he said, as if tasting the name. "How?" "I make it a point to know beautiful things." His gloved thumb brushed her lower lip. "Stay." "I can't." "You already have." She should have left then. Should have grabbed her coat from the gutter, caught the last train back to Harlem, and never looked back. Instead, she let him lead her deeper into the mansion, past locked doors and whispered secrets, into a library lit only by firelight. Books towered to the ceiling, leather spines gleaming. A single chair sat by the hearth. Damien poured 2 glasses of something amber and expensive, handed her one. "To intruders," he toasted. Nuella clinked her glass against his. The liquor burned, sweet and smoky. "You're not what I expected." Disappointed. Terrified. He laughed, the sound rusty, like he hadn't used it in years. "Good. Fear keeps us honest." They talked, or rather she did. Words spilled out, the diner's broken coffee machine, the lounge's sticky floors, her mother's hospital bills stacking up like unpaid sins. Damien listened, mask finally discarded, gray eyes unreadable. When she finished, silence stretched, thick with possibility. "Your turn," she said. He stared into the fire. "I don't do this." "Talk. Feel." The word was a confession. Nuella set her glass down. Then why am I here? Because you looked at me like I was just a man. Outside, thunder rumbled. Rain lashed the windows. Somewhere, a clock struck midnight. I have to go, she said. Damien caught her wrist. Stay till the storm passes. She should have said no. Instead, she let him pull her into the circle of his arms, let his mouth find hers in the firelight. The kiss was slow, deliberate, like he was memorizing her. Nuella's hands fisted in his shirt, the fine cotton soft against her calluses. When they broke apart, foreheads touching, he whispered, "Come back tomorrow." "I can't." "You will." She fled then, grabbing her coat from the coat check, miraculously still there, running into the rain-slick night. The gates closed behind her with a final clang. Back in her tiny apartment, Keisha was asleep on the couch, TV flickering. Nuella peeled off the gown, folded it carefully, and stared at her reflection. Lips swollen, eyes bright. She touched them, half expecting the moment to dissolve. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Tomorrow. 8 p.m. Wear the mask. D. Nuella's heart flipped. She should delete it. Block the number. Forget the billionaire who'd kissed her like she was oxygen. Instead, she typed back, "I don't belong in your world." The reply was instant. "Then I'll meet you in yours." She stared at the screen until it went dark, the storm raging outside her window, matching the one in her chest. Somewhere across the city, Damien Blackwood stood in his empty library, staring at the imprint of her lipstick on his glass. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like a beginning. The bell above the door of Mama Lou's all-night diner jangled at 5:47 a.m., same as every Sunday. Nuella Stacy shoved through with damp curls and a lie already on her tongue. Train was late, she told Big Rico, the fry cook, who only grunted and slid a plate of hash browns across the pass-through. She tied on her apron, the faded blue one with a bleach stain shaped like Florida, and tried to pretend the billionaire's mouth hadn't been on hers 8 hours ago. The morning rush hit like a subway car, construction guys in neon vests, nurses still smelling of antiseptic, a drunk poet who always paid in crumpled singles and haikus. Nuella moved on autopilot. Coffee, 2 sugars, no cream, side of bacon extra crispy, keep the toast light, honey. Every clink of a plate sounded like the crystal flutes from last night. Every whiff of grease reminded her of orchids. At 6:22, her phone vibrated against her hip. Unknown number. Tell me you're wearing the gold mask under that apron. D. She nearly dropped a full pot of coffee. Big Rico raised one eyebrow the size of a breakfast sausage. Boyfriend. Bill collector, she muttered, and escaped to the walk-in fridge, cold air slapping her cheeks. She typed back with trembling thumbs. Nuella. Some of us have rent to pay. You can't just text me at work. Damien. Watch me. 3 dots. Then a photo, the exact same thrift store mask lying on a black marble countertop beside a single red rose and a stack of hundreds fanned like playing cards. Damien. Your tip for last night. Come collect it at 8. Nuella's stomach flipped. She shoved the phone away, grabbed a tray of ketchup bottles, and marched back into the fluorescent light. No. She was not Cinderella. She was not trading her Sunday shift for a rose and blood money. But at 7:03, Mama Lou herself, 68, 4'11", arms like bridge cables, pinned her with a stare. Girl, you look like somebody done proposed and ghosted in the same breath. Sit. Nuella obeyed. Mama Lou poured 2 coffees, black as midnight, and slid one across the counter. Spill. So Nuella spilled. Not the billionaire's name, never the name, but the golden gates, the kiss that tasted like smoke and cedar, the text that made her knees weak. Mama Lou listened, pink scarf bright against her silver braids. When Nuella finished, the older woman tapped a ruby-red nail against the mug. Rich men collect broken things, Mama Lou said. But sometimes a broken thing teaches them how to be whole. Question is, you brave enough to find out which one he is? Nuella opened her mouth. Closed it. Outside, the sun cracked the horizon, spilling peach light across cracked vinyl booths. At 7:47, the bell jingled again. A man in a charcoal coat stepped inside, raindrops glittering on broad shoulders. No mask this time, just storm-gray eyes and a jaw sharp enough to cut diamonds. Damian Blackwood in a diner. The construction guys stopped mid-bite. The poet looked up, awestruck. Nuella's heart tried to evacuate through her throat. He walked straight to her, boots silent on the linoleum. Every eye followed. He stopped at the counter, placed a small velvet box beside her coffee, and spoke loud enough for the entire room. "Nuella Stacy, you dropped something last night." He flipped the box open. Inside, the gold mask, now lined in real gold leaf, tiny diamonds winking at the eyes. A note tucked beneath. "Wear this when you're ready to stop hiding." Mama Lou whistled low. Big Rico dropped a spatula. Nuella stared at the mask, then at Damian. "You can't buy me," she said, voice steady even if her hands weren't. "I'm not buying," he answered. "I'm begging." He leaned in, close enough that only she could hear. "One breakfast. No cameras. No security. Just you, me, and the worst pancakes in Manhattan. If you hate me by the last bite, I disappear. Promise." He held out a hand, gloveless this time, a thin scar crossing his knuckles like a secret. Nuella glanced at Mama Lou, who gave a single regal nod. She untied her apron, folded it with deliberate care, and took his hand. The diner erupted in cheers. Outside, a black town car idled, not the stretch limo from last night, just a regular sedan with tinted windows. Damian opened the back door himself. Inside smelled like leather and warm croissants. He slid in beside her, leaving a careful foot of space. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Somewhere your shoes won't pinch." The car rolled north, through Harlem at sunrise, bodega gates rattling up, church ladies in Sunday hats, kids chasing a basketball that bounced like hope. Nuella watched her city blur past and felt the mask box heavy in her lap. 20 minutes later, they stopped at a tiny Ethiopian spot on 125th, Mezab Magic, a hole in the wall with plastic tables and the best injera in the 5 boroughs. Damian had apparently called ahead. The owner, Salam, greeted them like royalty and locked the door behind them. "Private party," Salam announced, winking at Nuella. "Eat fast before the ancestors get jealous." They sat on low stools. Salam brought platter after platter, spicy Doro what, lemony shiro, collards that melted on the tongue. Damian rolled up his sleeves, custom shirt, monogrammed cuffs, and tore injera with the same focus he probably used to close billion-dollar deals. Nuella watched sauce drip onto his Rolex and laughed so hard her eyes watered. "Something funny?" he asked, mouth full. "You're eating with your hands like you were born to it." "My nanny was from Addis," he said quietly. "She taught me before my father decided silver spoons were more photogenic." Nuella paused, piece of injera halfway to her mouth. First crack in the armor. They talked, really talked. She told him about her mom's dialysis appointments, the scholarship she'd lost when her grades slipped senior year, the way jazz made her feel like she could fly. He told her about boarding schools where they measured your worth in trust funds, the fiancé who'd sold his proposal speech to the tabloids for a Birkin bag, the night he'd locked his heart in a vault and thrown away the key. Hours slipped by. Salam refilled coffee without asking. Outside, church bells rang. Inside, 2 worlds sat cross-legged on plastic stools, trading stories like currency. At 11:07, Nuella's phone buzzed angrily. "Keisha. Girl, you alive? Mama Lou said a white boy in a coat carried you off like a Disney prince. I need details." Nuella showed Damian the text. He laughed, really laughed, head thrown back, the sound echoing off the tin ceiling. "Disney prince," he wheezed. "I've been called worse." He paid the bill, in cash, no card, no fuss, and left a tip that made Salam gasp. Then he walked Nuella to the door, sunlight pouring over them like warm honey. "I have a meeting in Soho," he said. "But tonight, no mansions, no masks. Meet me on the Brooklyn Bridge at sunset. Wear sneakers." He brushed a curl from her forehead, thumb lingering. "No pressure. Just a walk. If you don't show, I'll know." Nuella watched the sedan disappear into traffic, then looked down at the velvet box in her hand. She opened it. Beneath the mask, a second note. "You said you wanted one night of magic. I'm offering a lifetime of mornings. D." Her heart did a slow, dangerous flip. That afternoon, she called in sick to the jazz lounge. First time in 2 years. Keisha squealed so loud the neighbors banged on the wall. They raided Keisha's closet, ripped jeans, a soft white tee, gold hoop earrings that caught the light like tiny suns. Nuella left the mask at home. Tonight, she wanted him to see her. At 6:42 p.m., she stepped onto the Brooklyn Bridge. The sky bled orange and violet, cables glowing like harp strings. Tourists milled, but Damien stood out. No coat, no driver, just dark jeans and a black hoodie, hands shoved in pockets. He looked normal. Devastatingly so. He spotted her and smiled, not the polished billionaire smirk from the tabloids, but something shy, almost boyish. "Hey, waitress." "Hey, billionaire." They walked. No bodyguards. No paparazzi, yet. Just wind off the East River and the thud of their sneakers on wood planks. Halfway across, he stopped, leaned on the railing. Below, the water churned black and gold. "I used to come here after board meetings," he said. "Reminded me the city's bigger than my corner office." Nuella joined him, elbows brushing. "I come here when mom's bills pile up. Reminds me dreams are bigger than debt." Silence stretched, comfortable. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a single subway token, the old kind, bronze and scratched. "First thing I ever bought with my own money," he said. "Age 10. Stole it from my dad's desk, rode the F train end to end just to feel free." He pressed it into her palm. "Keep it. For every time you think you don't belong in my world, remember I once paid 25 cents to escape mine." Nuella closed her fingers around the token, warmth spreading through her chest. They reached the Brooklyn side as stars blinked on. Damien hailed a yellow cab, regular cab, meter running. He gave the driver Nuella's address, then turned to her. "Tomorrow," he said, "I want to meet your mom. No cameras. Just me, some flowers, and the worst hospital jello in the 5 boroughs." Nuella laughed, eyes stinging. "She'll hate the flowers. She's allergic. But she'll love you." The cab pulled away. Nuella watched his silhouette shrink, hoodie swallowed by Brooklyn night. She looked at the token in her hand, then at the skyline, her skyline, now stitched with new light. Back in her apartment, Keisha pounced. "Spill, Cinderella." Nuella told her everything, almost. She left out the part where Damien had looked at her like she was the only real thing in his plastic world. She left out the part where she was already falling, hard and fast, no parachute. At 2:13 a.m., her phone lit up. "Damien. Dreaming of Injera and your laugh. P.S. I'm wearing the gold mask to bed. Don't judge." She smiled so wide her cheeks hurt. Across town, Damien stood on his penthouse balcony, city glittering below like spilled diamonds. He held the thrift store mask to his face, breathing in faint traces of her perfume, cocoa butter and courage. For the first time in a decade, he didn't lock the balcony door. He wanted the night air to remember her name. At what exact moment did Nuella realize Damien wasn't playing a game? Drop the scene that made your heart clutch. Let's compare goosebumps. The first photo hit the internet at 4:17 a.m. on Tuesday. Nuella woke to the sound of Keisha's scream, raw animal, the kind that made her bolt upright in bed, heart jackhammering. Keisha stood in the doorway of their shoebox bedroom, phone glowing like a torch, eyes wide as dinner plates. "Tell me this ain't you," she whispered, thrusting the screen forward. Nuella took it. The headline screamed in bold caps. "Billionaire Blackwood's Mystery Gold Digger. Waitress caught kissing NYC's most eligible bachelor on Brooklyn Bridge." Below, a grainy paparazzi shot. Damien's hoodie pulled low, her white tee glowing under streetlights, their mouths fused in a kiss that looked stolen from a movie. Her curls spilled over his shoulder, his hand cupped her face like she was made of glass. The timestamp read 7:42 p.m., exactly when she'd thought they were alone. Nuella's stomach dropped through the mattress. Keisha scrolled. More photos. Damien opening the cab door. Nuella laughing, head thrown back. A zoomed-in shot of the subway token exchange, captioned, "He gave her a token, literally." Comments poured in like sewage. Gold-digging Cinderella found her prince. Too bad the slipper's a knockoff. Waitress? More like waiting for a paycheck. Blackwood's PR team in shambles. Nuella's phone buzzed itself off the nightstand. Unknown numbers. Mama Lou. The jazz lounge manager. Her mom's nurse. She silenced it, hands shaking so hard the screen blurred. Keisha locked the door, yanked the blinds. How bad? Nuella croaked. Bad like page 6, TMZ, Daily Mail bad. They've got your name, your jobs, your address. Keisha's voice cracked. Girl, there's a van outside. Actual paparazzi. In Harlem. Nuella stumbled to the window. Sure enough, 3 white vans, lenses longer than her arm, flashes popping like gunfire. A drone buzzed overhead. Someone shouted her name. She backed away, chest tight. I need to call him. Damien picked up on the first ring. Nuella. His voice was rough, like he hadn't slept. They know who I am, she said. My mom's hospital. I'm handling it. A pause. I'm sorry. My security team traced the leak to a guest at the party, some hedge fund kid with a zoom lens and a grudge. I've got lawyers on it. Stay inside. I'm sending a car. No. The word came out sharper than she intended. I'm not hiding in your tower, Damien. This is my life. Silence. Then let me come to you. She wanted to say no. Wanted to delete his number, burn the gold mask, crawl under the covers and pretend last night was a fever dream. But the drone buzzed louder, and Keisha's eyes were terrified, and Nuella realized she was in over her head. Fine, she said. But no cameras. No security theater. Just you. 23 minutes later, a beat-up Honda Civic pulled up. No tinted windows, no Blackwood crest. Damien climbed out in jeans and a baseball cap, moving fast. He slipped past the paparazzi like a ghost, hoodie up, and knocked 3 times. Keisha opened the door a crack, pepper spray ready. Damien raised both hands. I come in peace. Nuella stepped forward. He looked, wrecked. Eyes bloodshot, stubble shadowing his jaw. He carried a paper bag from Mezob Magic and a single red rose, plastic, the kind from bodegas. For your mom, he said. No allergens. Keisha melted. Nuella didn't. They sat at the kitchen table, Formica, one leg wobbly, and ate cold injera in silence while Keisha pretended to fold laundry in the next room. Finally, Nuella spoke. My manager called. I'm on indefinite leave from the lounge. Mama Lou says the diner's a circus, customers asking for selfies with my apron. She laughed, bitter. I'm a meme, Damien. Waitress who bagged a billionaire. They're saying I roofied you. He flinched. I know. Do you? She shoved her phone across the table. A new article, Blackwood board demands distraction be removed, stock dips 3%. Damien's jaw tightened. That's my uncle. He's been gunning for my seat since I turned down his merger. This is leverage. Nuella stared at him. So I'm collateral damage? No. He reached for her hand. She pulled back. You're the reason I'm fighting. But I won't lie, the board spooked. My family's complicated. If I push back too hard, they'll vote me out. The room spun. Nuella stood, pacing the 3 steps to the fridge and back. So what's the plan? Pay me off? NDAs? Pretend I never existed. Damien stood too, blocking her path. The plan is you. I don't care about the stock. I care about the girl who laughed at my sauce-stained Rolex. I'm not letting them erase you. He pulled out his phone, dialed on speaker. A crisp voice answered, Mr. Blackwood? Elena, draft a press release. I want it out in 30 minutes. He locked eyes with Nuella. Tell them Damien Blackwood is in a relationship with Nuella Stacy, a brilliant, hard-working woman who's more real than anyone in my boardroom. Tell them I'm proud. And tell my uncle if he wants a fight, he'll get one. Elena hesitated. Sir, the board. We'll learn to live with it. He hung up. Nuella's knees buckled. She sank into a chair. You just declared war. For me. Damien knelt, taking her hands. I've been at war my whole life. This is the first battle worth winning. Keisha poked her head in. You'll need a room or a referee. Nuella laughed, actually laughed, the sound startling them all. Damien's shoulders sagged in relief. But the storm wasn't over. By noon, the press release hit. Stocks jumped 5%. Twitter exploded with #BlackwoodBay. Nuella's Instagram, private, 112 followers, gained 50,000 overnight. Her mom's nurse called, reporters at the hospital. Security's holding them back, but Damien made calls. Lawyers. PR crisis teams. A discreet security detail for the hospital, not Blackwood branded, just concerned citizens. He moved like a general, but every time he looked at Nuella, his eyes asked, "Are you okay?" She wasn't. But she was furious. At 3:12 p.m., she grabbed her coat. "Where are you going?" Damien asked. "To work." He blinked. "You were fired." "Mama Lou didn't fire me," she said, "indefinite leave. I'm ending it." She marched to the diner, Damien trailing like a worried shadow. The paparazzi swarm had thinned, chasing the next scandal, but a few diehards lingered. Nuella ignored them, pushed through the door. Mama Lou looked up from the register, eyes soft. "Child, you don't have to." "I do." Nuella tied on her apron. "This is my place. They don't get to take it." The bell jingled. Customers stared. Phones lifted. Nuella grabbed a coffee pot and started pouring, voice loud and clear. "Refills are free. Pictures cost $20. Proceeds to my mom's medical fund. Who's first?" A construction guy grinned, slapped a 20 on the counter. "Make it 30, sweetheart. You're a legend." By 4 o'clock, the diner was packed. Not for the food, for her. Nuella worked the room like a queen, taking orders, cracking jokes, posing for photos with a middle finger to the haters. Damien sat in a corner booth, baseball cap low, watching her shine. At 5:47, a new headline dropped. "Waitress Nuella Stacy owns the internet." And Blackwood's heart. The photo, Nuella midlaugh, apron askew, coffee pot raised like a sword. Comments flipped. "She's iconic. Protect her at all costs. Damien doesn't deserve her." Nuella's phone buzzed. "Mom. Baby girl, the nurses are obsessed. They want your autograph. Proud of you." She showed Damien. He grinned, the first real one all day. "Told you. You're unstoppable." But that night, alone in her apartment, Keisha at her cousin's, Damien back at his penthouse handling fallout, Nuella opened her laptop. A private message waited on Instagram. From @Victoria Blackwood Official. Subject: "Stay away from my son." The message was a single line. "He'll tire of you. They always do. VB." Nuella stared at the screen, the glow harsh against the dark. Victoria Blackwood, Damien's mother, society queen, face of 1,000 charity galas. Her profile pic, pearls, perfect smile, eyes like winter. Nuella's fingers hovered over the keyboard. She typed, deleted, typed again. Finally. "Nuella. He's not a toy. And I'm not a phase. Have a nice night." She hit send, heart pounding, then blocked the account. Across town, Damien's phone lit up with a text from his mother. "Victoria. She's rude. End it." He typed back. "Damien. She's real. Get used to it." He attached a photo, Nuella at the diner mid-pour, sunlight catching her curls like a halo. Then he turned off his phone, stared at the ceiling, and whispered her name like a prayer. Nuella fell asleep with the subway token clutched in her fist, the city outside her window no longer just surviving, but roaring. When did the power shift from Damien rescuing Nuella to Nuella owning her own narrative? Quote the line that made you cheer, "Let's celebrate her crown." The elevator climbed the Blackwood Tower like a guillotine in reverse, 38 floors of glass and steel, each ding a countdown to judgment. Nuella stood beside Damien in a navy-sheath dress Keisha had ironed twice, her mother's pearls at her throat, the subway token on a thin gold chain tucked beneath the collar. No mask today. Just her. Damien wore a charcoal suit sharp enough to slice bread, but his hand trembled slightly as he adjusted his cufflinks. Nuella noticed. She slipped her fingers through his. He squeezed once, "Thank you," then let go before the doors slid open. The boardroom was a cathedral of intimidation, mahogany table long as a city block, floor-to-ceiling windows framing Manhattan like a conquered kingdom. 14 directors waited, all white, all over 50, all men except for Victoria Blackwood in a cream suit at the far end, pearls gleaming like tiny handcuffs. Her gaze cut to Nuella and stayed there, arctic and unblinking. Damien pulled out Nuella's chair. First, a deliberate statement. She sat. He took the head of the table. Let's begin, he said. Uncle Reginald, silver hair, golf tan, voice like gravel, leaned forward. Stocks volatile, Damien. Your distraction is costing us investor confidence. Nuella felt every eye swivel to her. She lifted her chin. Actually, the stock's up 7% since the press release. I ran the numbers this morning. Reginald blinked. Victoria's lips thinned. Damien's mouth twitched. Nuella's consulting on PR strategy. She's brilliant at reading people. A younger director, Preston, slick as oil, snorted. She's a waitress. She's the reason half the internet's buying Blackwood stock to support the love story, Nuella shot back. Your Gen Z demographic tripled overnight. You're welcome. Silence. Then a cough. Then Victoria, voice silk over steel. Charming. But legacy isn't built on memes, dear. It's built on trust. Damien's jaw flexed. Trust I've earned for 12 years. Quarterly profits up 42%. New AI division valued at $3 billion. Ring any bells? Reginald waved a manicured hand. Past performance. Current liability. Your girlfriend's mother is on Medicaid. Conflict of interest if we fund. My mother's care is private pay, Nuella cut in. I've got the receipts. And if you're implying I'd blackmail Damien, you don't know me. Victoria smiled, shark-like. We know enough. Damien stood. Enough. Vote of no confidence. Put it on the table. Now. Reginald hesitated. Preston looked at Victoria. She gave a tiny nod. Reginald cleared his throat. All in favor of removing Damien Blackwood as CEO. 3 hands rose. Then a 4th. 5. Nuella's heart sank. Damien didn't flinch. Opposed. 7 hands. His. Nuella's, uninvited, but she raised it anyway. The room bristled. Motion fails, Damien said. Meeting adjourned. Chairs scraped. Directors filed out, murmuring. Victoria lingered, approaching Nuella like a storm cloud. You're brave, she said softly. Or stupid. He'll break you. Nuella met her gaze. Or I'll fix him. Victoria's eyes flickered. Surprise? Respect? Then she was gone. In the elevator down, Damien sagged against the wall. That was brutal. You held, Nuella said. We held. He pulled her close, forehead to forehead. I need air. They exited through a service door, emerging in an alley where a single black town car waited. The driver, Marcus, Damien's childhood bodyguard, nodded. Roosevelt Island, sir? Damien looked at Nuella. Ever been on the tram? 20 minutes later, they boarded the red cable car swaying high above the East River. Tourists snapped selfies. Nuella and Damien stood at the window, city shrinking below. I used to ride this when I was 12, he said. Skipped school. Told my dad I had a stomachache. He never noticed. Nuella slipped her hand into his coat pocket, found the subway token, rolled it between their fingers. Your mom hates me. She hates anything she can't control. He turned to her. But you're uncontrollable. It's why I. He stopped. The tram lurched. Nuella's heart lurched harder. Why you what? He swallowed. Why I'm falling. Hard. Fast. Terrifyingly. The tram docked. They stepped onto Roosevelt Island, wind whipping off the water. Cherry blossoms drifted like pink snow, out of season, a greenhouse gift to the city. Damien led her to a bench facing the skyline. I have a confession, he said. That night at the party, I knew you weren't on the list. Nuella froze. What? I saw you on the security feed. Coat over the gown, sneaking past the gate. I told them to let you through. He met her eyes. I wanted to see what you'd do. She stared. You set me up? No. I set myself up. To meet someone real. And you laughed in my library like you owned it. You kissed me like the world wasn't watching. You saw me. Nuella's anger melted into something softer. You could have just said hi. Where's the fun in that? She punched his arm. He caught her fist, kissed her knuckles. Back in the city, the day unraveled into normalcy, their version. Lunch at a food truck, falafel so spicy Damien teared up. A visit to the hospital, Nuella's mom, frail but fierce, grilled Damien on his intentions until he promised to teach her poker. Evening at the jazz lounge, Nuella's job reinstated, crowd chanting her name as she sang backup on At Last, Damien in the front row, eyes shining. But midnight brought a new storm. Nuella's phone exploded with notifications. A video, leaked from the boardroom. Grainy but clear enough, her voice saying, "I've got the receipts." Edited to sound like a threat. Caption, "Gold digger admits blackmail plan." Within minutes, #CancelNuella trended. Her mom's hospital room flooded with hate mail. The diner's Yelp page tanked with 1-star reviews, serves lies with the fries. Damien's phone rang off the hook. His uncle's voice on speaker. "End it, Damien. Or we will." Nuella sat on her fire escape, city lights blurring through tears. Keisha brought tea. Mama Lou called with a shotgun offer. Damien arrived at 2 a.m., climbing the fire escape himself, suit rumpled, eyes wild. "I can fix this," he said. "Count a video. Lawsuit. I'll burn the company down before I let them." "No." Nuella's voice was steel. "They want me gone? I'll go. But on my terms." She stood, wiped her face. "Tomorrow, I'm holding a press conference. At the diner. No script. Just me." Damien started to protest. She kissed him, hard, claiming, "Trust me." The next morning, Mama Lou's was packed. Reporters, supporters, haters, the works. Nuella wore her apron, hair in a high puff, subway token gleaming at her throat. Cameras flashed. She stepped onto a milk crate. "Hi. I'm Nuella Stacy. I serve coffee. I sing jazz. I love a man who loves me back. That's the whole story." She held up her phone, bank statements, medical bills, tip jars labeled Mom's Miracle. "I've never taken a dime from Damien Blackwood. But I've taken his heart. And if that makes me a gold digger, then dig this. Love isn't a transaction. It's a choice." The crowd roared. A little girl in the front held up a sign, "I want to be Nuella when I grow up." Damien watched from the doorway, pride and terror warring on his face. Victoria stood across the street, arms crossed, but her expression cracked, just for a second. That night, the tide turned. #I stand with Nuella trended higher. The leaked video was debunked, full audio showed context. The board backpedaled. Stocks soared. But in the quiet of Nuella's apartment, Damien held her like she might vanish. "I almost lost you today." "You didn't," she whispered. "But you might if you keep climbing my fire escape in Tom Ford." He laughed, the sound shaky. "Marry me." She froze. "What?" "Not now. Not with rings and cameras. But someday. When the world stops screaming. Say you'll think about it." Nuella traced the scar on his knuckle. "I'll think about it." Outside, Dawn painted the sky gold, the same shade as her mask, now framed on her bedroom wall. Inside, 2 hearts beat in sync, learning that some wars are won not with boardrooms or headlines, but with truth spoken on a milk crate in Harlem. What was the exact second Nuella stopped being the mystery girl and became the hero of her own story? Quote the line that made you stand up and applaud, "Let's crown her together." The rain started at 3:12 a.m., a soft drumming against the penthouse windows that turned into a roar by 4. Nuella woke to the sound of Damien's breathing, shallow, uneven, like a man drowning in sleep. She rolled over in the vast bed, silk sheets cool against her skin, and found him curled on his side, fists clenched, forehead slick with sweat. "Damien." She touched his shoulder. He jerked awake with a gasp, eyes wild, scanning the dark like it might bite. Hey, it's me." She cupped his face, thumbs stroking the stubble. "You're safe." He stared at her a long moment, chest heaving, then collapsed back against the pillows. The city glowed beyond the glass, reds and golds bleeding into wet black, but inside the room, the air felt thick with ghosts. "Nightmare?" she asked. He nodded once, a sharp, ashamed jerk of his head. Old one. Nuella didn't push. She'd learned that about him in the 3 weeks since the press conference. Damian Blackwood gave facts like weapons, but feelings like apologies. Instead, she slipped from the bed, padded barefoot to the kitchen, and returned with 2 glasses of water. He took his without looking at her. They sat in silence, rain lashing the windows, until he finally spoke. Her name was Claire. Nuella's heart stuttered, but she kept her face neutral. She'd seen the name once in a dusty Vanity Fair profile from 5 years ago, Blackwood's broken engagement, society's biggest scandal. She'd skimmed it, then closed the tab. Some stories weren't hers to read in print. Damian stared into his glass. We met at Yale. She was pre-law, I was pre-everything. She laughed at my jokes before I had money to buy them. I thought. He laughed, bitter. I thought that was love. Nuella set her glass on the nightstand and climbed back into bed, kneeling behind him. She wrapped her arms around his waist, chin on his shoulder. Tell me the real version. Not the tabloid one. He leaned into her, just slightly. We got engaged the week I turned 26. Dad was dying, cancer fast. He wanted to see me settled. Claire planned the wedding like a military campaign. 1,200 guests, orchids flown in from Thailand, a dress that cost more than most people's houses. I didn't care about any of it. I just wanted her. His voice cracked on the last word. Nuella pressed a kiss between his shoulder blades. 2 weeks before the ceremony, I found the emails. She'd been selling details to the highest bidder, Page 6, TMZ, some blogger in London. My proposal speech. The prenup. Even the color of the damn napkins. She'd been paid $2 million up front. Another $1 million on delivery of the wedding photos. Nuella's arms tightened. Damian. There's more. He turned in her embrace, facing her now, eyes raw. She was pregnant. Said it was mine. I was happy. Stupidly, deliriously happy. Then the paternity test came back. Not mine. Some producer she'd met at a gala. She cried when she told me. Said she'd made a mistake. Wanted to keep the money and the ring. Nuella's throat burned. What did you do? Gave her the ring back. Told her to keep the money if it made her sleep better. Cancelled the wedding. Flew to Tokyo for 3 months. Came back and built a fortress. He gestured vaguely at the penthouse. 42 floors up, bulletproof glass, biometric locks. No one gets in unless I let them. Nuella traced the scar on his knuckle, the one he'd never explained. This night I found the emails. Punched a mirror in the Hamptons house. 7 stitches. Claire sent flowers. White roses. I threw them in the ocean. He laughed again, hollow. Pathetic, right? Billionaire cries over a girl. Nuella took his face in both hands. No. Human. You loved her. She weaponized it. That's not pathetic, that's evil. Damian searched her eyes, like he was waiting for the punchline. When it didn't come, he crumpled. Head in her lap, shoulders shaking with sobs he'd probably never let anyone hear. Nuella held him, stroking his hair, letting the rain wash the city clean outside while she washed him clean inside. Eventually, the crying stopped. He didn't move, just spoke into her thigh, voice muffled. I swore I'd never again. Then you crashed my party in a thrift store mask and laughed at my library like it was a playground. You terrify me, Nuella. She smiled into the dark. Good. Terror keeps us honest. Morning came gray and dripping. Damian made coffee, burned it, cursed, started over. Nuella watched from the counter, wearing his Harvard t-shirt and nothing else. He slid a mug toward her, steam curling like incense. I want to take you somewhere, he said. No cameras. No boardrooms. Just us. They drove north in his least ostentatious car, a 10-year-old Jeep Wrangler with a cracked dashboard and a pine tree air freshener. Nuella teased him mercilessly. He took it with a grin that looked almost boyish. 4 hours later, they reached the Catskills. A small cabin, his, but not on any Blackwood ledger. Wood smoke and pine needles. A porch swing creaking in the wind. Inside, 1-room stone fireplace, a bed with a quilt older than both of them. Damien built a fire while Nuella explored. She found a box under the bed, photos. Young Damien, gap-toothed, holding a fish twice his size. Damien at 15, awkward in a tux, arm around a girl with braces. Claire but softer real. Damien at 20, eyes already guarded, standing beside his father at a groundbreaking. She held up the photo of him and Claire. "May I?" He nodded, jaw tight. Nuella studied it, then placed it face down. Not destroyed. Just paused. They spent the day unplugged. Hiked to a waterfall that tasted like snowmelt. Made grilled cheese with bread that went stale on the drive up. Sat on the porch while deer grazed in the meadow, breath fogging in the chill. At dusk, Damien pulled out a small wooden box. Inside, a key. Old, iron, heavy. "My father gave me this when I was 10, he said. Said it opened the truth door. Told me to use it when I found someone worth unlocking for." He pressed it into her palm. "I'm not proposing. Not yet. But I'm giving you the key. To the cabin. To the nightmare. To me." Nuella closed her fingers around it. The metal was warm from his hand. That night, they made love by firelight, slow, deliberate, like they were learning a new language. After, Nuella traced the freckles across his shoulders. "Tell me something true," she whispered. He thought for a long time. "I used to keep Claire's voicemails. Listened to them when I couldn't sleep. Deleted them the night you sang at last at the lounge. Your voice erased her." Nuella's eyes stung. She kissed the scar on his knuckle. "Tell me something else." "I'm scared," he admitted. "That one day you'll wake up and realize you could have anyone. Someone who doesn't come with boardrooms and baggage." Nuella propped herself on an elbow. "Damien Blackwood, listen to me. I've had nobody my whole life. Tips in a jar. Dreams on layaway. You think I want easy? I want you. Nightmares and all." He pulled her close, burying his face in her neck. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not. But you're stuck with me." They fell asleep tangled, fire crackling down to embers. Sunday morning, Nuella woke to the smell of bacon. Damien stood at the ancient stove in sweatpants, hair a mess, flipping strips with intense concentration. She snuck up behind him, stole a piece. He swatted her with the spatula. "Sit," he ordered. "Breakfast of champions." They ate on the porch barefoot, sharing one plate. Birds argued in the pines. A text buzzed, "Keisha. You alive? Media's asking if you've been kidnapped by Bigfoot." Nuella laughed, showed Damien. He typed back. "Bigfoot says hi. Send help, running out of bacon." On the drive home, they stopped at a roadside farm stand. Nuella bought apples. Damien bought a pumpkin the size of a toddler. He carried it like a baby. She took a photo, no filter, just them, windblown and happy. Back in the city, reality waited. But something had shifted. The nightmare wasn't gone. Damien still woke some nights reaching for a ghost, but Nuella was there now, a living anchor. And the key hung on a chain around her neck, beside the subway token. One night, weeks later, Nuella found him in the penthouse library, the one from the party, now theirs. He was burning something in the fireplace. She peeked. White roses, dried and brittle. "Claire's flowers," he said. "Found them in a box. Thought they deserved a funeral." Nuella added a log, watched the petals curl into ash. "Good riddance." He pulled her into his lap. "I'm healing," he said. "Because of you." Nuella kissed him, soft and slow. "We're both healing. Together." Outside, snow began to fall, early magical. Inside, the fire crackled, and for the first time in years, Damien Blackwood's heart wasn't locked. It was open. What was the precise moment Damien let Claire go for good, and let Nuella in? Quote the line that made your chest ache. "Let's heal together." The rain started at 3:12 a.m., a soft drumming against the penthouse windows that turned into a roar by 4. Nuella woke to the sound of Damien's breathing, shallow, uneven, like a man drowning in sleep. She rolled over in the vast bed, silk sheets cool against her skin, and found him curled on his side, fists clenched, forehead slick with sweat. "Damien." She touched his shoulder. He jerked awake with a gasp, eyes wild. scanning the dark like it might bite. Hey, it's me. She cupped his face, thumbs stroking the stubble. You're safe. He stared at her a long moment, chest heaving, then collapsed back against the pillows. The city glowed beyond the glass, reds and golds bleeding into wet black, but inside the room, the air felt thick with ghosts. Nightmare? She asked. He nodded once, a sharp, ashamed jerk of his head. Old one. Nuella didn't push. She'd learned that about him in the 3 weeks since the press conference. Damian Blackwood gave facts like weapons, but feelings like apologies. Instead, she slipped from the bed, padded barefoot to the kitchen, and returned with 2 glasses of water. He took his without looking at her. They sat in silence, rain lashing the windows, until he finally spoke. Her name was Claire. Nuella's heart stuttered, but she kept her face neutral. She'd seen the name once in a dusty Vanity Fair profile from 5 years ago, Blackwood's broken engagement, society's biggest scandal. She'd skimmed it, then closed the tab. Some stories weren't hers to read in print. Damian stared into his glass. We met at Yale. She was pre-law, I was pre-everything. She laughed at my jokes before I had money to buy them. I thought. He laughed, bitter. I thought that was love. Nuella set her glass on the nightstand and climbed back into bed, kneeling behind him. She wrapped her arms around his waist, chin on his shoulder. Tell me the real version. Not the tabloid one. He leaned into her, just slightly. We got engaged the week I turned 26. Dad was dying, cancer fast. He wanted to see me settled. Claire planned the wedding like a military campaign. 1,200 guests, orchids flown in from Thailand, a dress that cost more than most people's houses. I didn't care about any of it. I just wanted her. His voice cracked on the last word. Nuella pressed a kiss between his shoulder blades. 2 weeks before the ceremony, I found the emails. She'd been selling details to the highest bidder, Page 6, TMZ, some blogger in London. My proposal speech. The prenup. Even the color of the damn napkins. She'd been paid $2 million up front. Another $1 million on delivery of the wedding photos. Nuella's arms tightened. Damian. There's more. He turned in her embrace, facing her now, eyes raw. She was pregnant. Said it was mine. I was happy. Stupidly, deliriously happy. Then the paternity test came back. Not mine. Some producer she'd met at a gala. She cried when she told me. Said she'd made a mistake. Wanted to keep the money and the ring. Nuella's throat burned. What did you do? Gave her the ring back. Told her to keep the money if it made her sleep better. Cancelled the wedding. Flew to Tokyo for 3 months. Came back and built a fortress. He gestured vaguely at the penthouse. 42 floors up, bulletproof glass, biometric locks. No one gets in unless I let them. Nuella traced the scar on his knuckle, the one he'd never explained. This night I found the emails. Punched a mirror in the Hamptons house. 7 stitches. Claire sent flowers. White roses. I threw them in the ocean. He laughed again, hollow. Pathetic, right? Billionaire cries over a girl. Nuella took his face in both hands. No. Human. You loved her. She weaponized it. That's not pathetic, that's evil. Damian searched her eyes, like he was waiting for the punchline. When it didn't come, he crumpled. Head in her lap, shoulders shaking with sobs he'd probably never let anyone hear. Nuella held him, stroking his hair, letting the rain wash the city clean outside while she washed him clean inside. Eventually, the crying stopped. He didn't move, just spoke into her thigh, voice muffled. I swore I'd never again. Then you crashed my party in a thrift store mask and laughed at my library like it was a playground. You terrify me, Nuella. She smiled into the dark. Good. Terror keeps us honest. Morning came gray and dripping. Damian made coffee, burned it, cursed, started over. Nuella watched from the counter, wearing his Harvard t-shirt and nothing else. He slid a mug toward her, steam curling like incense. I want to take you somewhere, he said. No cameras. No boardrooms. Just us. They drove north in his least ostentatious car, a 10-year-old Jeep Wrangler with a cracked dashboard and a pine tree air freshener. Nuella teased him mercilessly. He took it with a grin that looked almost boyish. 4 hours later, they reached the Catskills. A small cabin, his, but not on any Blackwood ledger. Wood smoke and pine needles. A porch swing creaking in the wind. Inside, one-room stone fireplace, a bed with a quilt older than both of them. Damien built a fire while Nuella explored. She found a box under the bed, photos. Young Damien, gap-toothed, holding a fish twice his size. Damien at 15, awkward in a tux, arm around a girl with braces. Claire but softer real. Damien at 20, eyes already guarded, standing beside his father at a groundbreaking. She held up the photo of him and Claire. "May I?" He nodded, jaw tight. Nuella studied it, then placed it face down. Not destroyed. Just paused. They spent the day unplugged. Hiked to a waterfall that tasted like snowmelt. Made grilled cheese with bread that went stale on the drive up. Sat on the porch while deer grazed in the meadow, breath fogging in the chill. At dusk, Damien pulled out a small wooden box. Inside, a key. Old, iron, heavy. "My father gave me this when I was 10, he said. Said it opened the truth door. Told me to use it when I found someone worth unlocking for." He pressed it into her palm. "I'm not proposing. Not yet. But I'm giving you the key. To the cabin. To the nightmare. To me." Nuella closed her fingers around it. The metal was warm from his hand. That night, they made love by firelight, slow, deliberate, like they were learning a new language. After, Nuella traced the freckles across his shoulders. "Tell me something true," she whispered. He thought for a long time. "I used to keep Claire's voicemails. Listened to them when I couldn't sleep. Deleted them the night you sang at last at the lounge. Your voice erased her." Nuella's eyes stung. She kissed the scar on his knuckle. "Tell me something else." "I'm scared," he admitted. "That one day you'll wake up and realize you could have anyone. Someone who doesn't come with boardrooms and baggage." Nuella propped herself on an elbow. "Damien Blackwood, listen to me. I've had nobody my whole life. Tips in a jar. Dreams on layaway. You think I want easy? I want you. Nightmares and all." He pulled her close, burying his face in her neck. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not. But you're stuck with me." They fell asleep tangled, fire crackling down to embers. Sunday morning, Nuella woke to the smell of bacon. Damien stood at the ancient stove in sweatpants, hair a mess, flipping strips with intense concentration. She snuck up behind him, stole a piece. He swatted her with the spatula. "Sit," he ordered. "Breakfast of champions." They ate on the porch barefoot, sharing one plate. Birds argued in the pines. A text buzzed. "Keisha. You alive? Media's asking if you've been kidnapped by Bigfoot." Nuella laughed, showed Damien. He typed back. "Bigfoot says hi. Send help, running out of bacon." On the drive home, they stopped at a roadside farm stand. Nuella bought apples. Damien bought a pumpkin the size of a toddler. He carried it like a baby. She took a photo, no filter, just them, windblown and happy. Back in the city, reality waited. But something had shifted. The nightmare wasn't gone. Damien still woke some nights reaching for a ghost, but Nuella was there now, a living anchor. And the key hung on a chain around her neck, beside the subway token. One night, weeks later, Nuella found him in the penthouse library, the one from the party, now theirs. He was burning something in the fireplace. She peeked. White roses, dried and brittle. "Claire's flowers," he said. "Found them in a box. Thought they deserved a funeral." Nuella added a log and watched the petals curl into ash. "Good riddance." He pulled her into his lap. "I'm healing," he said. "Because of you." Nuella kissed him, soft and slow. "We're both healing. Together." Outside, snow began to fall, early magical. Inside, the fire crackled, and for the first time in years, Damien Blackwood's heart wasn't locked. It was open. What was the precise moment Damien let Claire go for good, and let Nuella in? Quote the line that made your chest ache. "Let's heal together." The first snow of the season fell on a Tuesday, soft and silent, blanketing the city in hush. Nuella stood at the penthouse window, watching flakes melt against the glass, and felt the storm inside her chest grow louder than the one outside. It had been 6 weeks since the Catskills. 6 weeks of mornings tangled in Damien's sheets, of stolen lunches at the diner where Mama Lou now kept a reserved booth with a brass plaque, Nuella and her billionaire. 6 weeks of boardroom wins, of Victoria's icy silence thawing into reluctant nods at charity galas, of tabloids running out of scandals and resorting to Blackwood's Bay Bakes cookies for orphans. 6 weeks of Damien waking from nightmares with her name on his lips instead of Claire's. But the world had teeth, and they were sharpening. It started with a whisper in the Wall Street Journal. Blackwood empire teeters, Asian investors pull out over instability. Then a Bloomberg alert. Board prepares emergency vote, CEO's personal life cited. By Friday, the New York Post screamed. Gold diggers free ride on Blackwood dime. A photo of Nuella leaving the hospital, arm around her mother, twisted into something sordid. Damien's phone never stopped ringing. He aged a year in a day, shadows under his eyes, voice hoarse from conference calls. Nuella watched him pace the penthouse at 3 a.m., Thai askew, arguing in Mandarin with a Shanghai conglomerate. I can fix this, he kept saying. I'll sell the AI division. I'll step down as chairman. Just don't leave. But Nuella saw the truth in the fine print. If Damien fought for her, the company, his father's legacy, 12,000 jobs, billions in pensions, would crumble. If he chose the company, she became the villain who cost him everything. She made her decision in the dark, while he slept fitfully beside her. She wrote the note on penthouse stationery, the kind with a gold crest she once thought was magic. Damien, you belong to a world that would never accept me. Maybe I was only meant to crash your party, not your life. Let me go so you can save what matters. I'll love you always, but love isn't enough when it destroys. Nuella. She left the subway token on the pillow, the key to the cabin on the nightstand. She kissed his forehead, tasting salt, his tears or hers, she wasn't sure. Then she slipped out, coat buttoned to her chin, and took the service elevator down to the street. The city was silver with snow. She walked until her toes went numb, then caught the A train to Harlem. Keisha was waiting, eyes red, arms open. Nuella collapsed into them and sobbed until there was nothing left. By morning, the note was public, leaked of course. Damien's team tried to spin it, mutual decision. Amicable. But the photo of him leaving the penthouse, face shattered, coat unbuttoned in the snow, told the real story. Nuella unplugged. No phone. No social media. She moved into her mom's hospital room, family leave, she told the nurses. She sang lullabies in the dark, held ice chips to cracked lips, and pretended her heart wasn't in pieces. Damien searched. Private investigators. Bribes. He showed up at the diner, the lounge, the Brooklyn Bridge at sunset. Mama Lou chased him out with a rolling pin. Keisha blocked his number. He sent letters, hundreds, delivered by courier, returned unopened. One arrived with a single white rose. Nuella burned it in the hospital sink, watching petals curl like Claire's had in the fireplace. History repeating, she thought, and hated herself for it. Winter deepened. Nuella took a job at a Bronx community center, teaching jazz vocals to kids who couldn't afford lessons. She wore thrift store coats and no makeup. Her curls grew wild. She smiled for the children, but it never reached her eyes. Damien, meanwhile, became a ghost of himself. Board meetings via hologram, CEO working remotely. He sold the yacht, the Hamptons house, the private jet. Stock stabilized, but at a cost. His uncle took the chairmanship. Damien kept CEO in name only, a figurehead in a cage. He stopped sleeping. The penthouse echoed. He wore the gold mask some nights, just to remember her laugh. He kept the subway token in his pocket, rubbing it like a worry stone until the bronze wore smooth. Spring came early. Cherry blossoms bloomed in Harlem, pink against gray brick. Nuella's mom was moved to a rehab facility upstate, paid for anonymously, Nuella knew by whom. She visited on weekends, singing Summertime, while her mother relearned to walk. One Saturday, a little girl at the center tugged her sleeve. Miss Nuella, a man left this. A single red envelope, no name. Inside, a ticket to the Blackwood Halloween masquerade, 1 year later. On the back, in Damien's handwriting. I'm still looking for the girl in gold. D. Nuella's hands shook. She should throw it away. Instead, she tucked it into her bra, close to her heart. Summer burned. Nuella's students performed at a block party, Nuella's Nightingales, the flyer read. She stood backstage, adjusting tiny bow ties, when a shadow fell across her. Damien. Thin. Eyes hollow. Wearing a simple black t-shirt and jeans. No watch, no entourage. He looked like the boy from the Catskills photos. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. I know. He held out a small box. For the kids. She opened it, 20 brand new microphones, the kind she'd been fundraising for all year. A note, let them be heard. Nuella's throat closed. You can't buy your way back. I'm not. He stepped closer, voice raw. I sold everything that wasn't you. The company's stable. Uncle's in charge. I'm just Damien. No empire. No excuses. I climb fire escapes now. I burn bacon. I miss you so much it's a physical ache. A child ran past, giggling. Nuella knelt to tie a shoe, buying time. When she stood, her eyes were wet. You think love is enough? She asked. After everything? No, he said. But it's a start. He left before she could answer, disappearing into the crowd like smoke. That night, Nuella dug out the thrift store mask. The gold foil was cracked, diamonds long gone. She held it to her face and cried, for the girl who'd crashed a party, for the man who'd let her break his heart to save his legacy, for the love that refused to die. October crept in. Nuella's mom came home, walking, weak but alive. The community center threw a party. Damien sent a piano. No note this time. Halloween Eve, Nuella stood in her tiny bedroom, staring at the red envelope. Keisha watched from the doorway. You going? I don't know. Keisha held up the gold gown, cleaned, mended, glowing. You owe it to the girl who wore this first. She was brave. Nuella took the dress. Her hands didn't shake this time. She arrived at Blackwood Manor at 11:47 p.m. No borrowed heels, just sneakers painted gold. The gates were open. No guest list. A sign read, All Crashers Welcome. Inside, the mansion was transformed. No chandeliers, just string lights and paper lanterns. No champagne fountains, just punch bowls and a taco truck. Guests wore drugstore masks, laughing, dancing to a jazz trio in the corner. Damien stood at the ballroom center, no mask, no suit, just black jeans and a white shirt, sleeves rolled, subway token on a chain around his neck. He looked up as she entered. The music stopped. The crowd parted. Nuella walked forward, mask in hand, gown catching the light. She stopped a foot away. Hi, she said. Hi, he echoed, voice breaking. I'm not here to stay, she warned. Not yet. I know. He held out the cabin key. But will you dance with me? One song. Then you decide. The trio struck up at last. Nuella took his hand. They swayed, not touching at first, then closer, until her cheek rested against his chest. She felt his heartbeat, fast, terrified, hers. The song ended. The crowd cheered. Nuella stepped back. I need time, she said. To trust this. To trust us. Damien nodded. I'll wait. A year. 10. However long. She slipped the mask over his eyes, gently, like a promise. Then find me next Halloween. Same time. Same place. If you still want me. I will, he said. I do. Nuella walked out into the night, snowless this time, stars sharp overhead. She didn't look back. But she smiled. Because sometimes the greatest sacrifice isn't leaving. It's choosing to come back, on your own terms, in your own time, mask optional. Nuella left the mansion at 12:03 a.m. on November 1st, the gold gown folded over her arm like a battle flag she wasn't ready to raise again. She took the subway home, F-train, standing room only, a drunk witch asleep on her shoulder, and stared at her reflection in the dark window. The mask was gone, but the girl who'd worn it was still there, eyes older, mouth set, heart cracked open and refusing to close. Keisha met her at the door with hot cocoa and no questions. They drank in silence on the fire escape, city lights flickering below like a million possible futures. When Nuella finally spoke, her voice was steady. "I need a year." Keisha nodded. "Then you'll have it." The first month was amputation. Nuella deleted every photo of Damien, blocked every number that might be his, threw the cabin key into the Hudson at dawn. She told herself it was closure. It felt like suffocation. She moved her mother into a small apartment in Washington Heights, paid for with her own savings, every penny from the community center, every tip from the diner. No anonymous donations accepted. She sang at senior centers, subway platforms, a funeral for a stranger who'd loved jazz. Her voice grew raw, then stronger, like muscle tearing and rebuilding. Damien, 3 boroughs away, became a monk in a penthouse. He sold the last of the luxury cars, kept the Jeep. He showed up at the office 3 days a week, signed what needed signing, then disappeared. Employees whispered, "He's haunted." They weren't wrong. He took the subway, 6 train at rush hour, pressed against strangers who didn't know his net worth. He carried a notebook, wrote letters he never sent. Page 1, Day 3. "You wore the blue scarf today. I saw you on the platform at 59th. You didn't see me." Page 47, Day 47. "Your mom walked 10 steps today. The nurse told me. I left before she saw." Winter turned to spring. Nuella's students won a citywide talent show. She stood backstage in a thrift store blazer, clapping until her palms bled. A reporter asked for a quote. She said, "These kids are the real magic. I just opened the door." The clip went viral. Offers poured in, record labels, talk shows, a Broadway workshop. She turned them all down. Not yet. Damien planted a community garden on a vacant lot in Red Hook. He showed up every Saturday in work boots, dirt under his nails, teaching kids how to grow tomatoes. One boy, Malik, 10 years old, missing 2 front teeth, asked why a rich guy was digging in the mud. Damien said, "Because someone taught me love grows where you water it." Malik nodded like that made perfect sense. Summer scorched the city. Nuella took her mom to Coney Island. They ate hot dogs, rode the cyclone, screamed until their throats hurt. On the boardwalk, a street artist sketched them, mother and daughter, laughing, wind in their curls. Nuella bought the drawing. It was the first thing she hung in the new apartment. Damien ran the Brooklyn Half Marathon. No bib, no fanfare, just a black t-shirt and the subway token around his neck. He finished in 1:58, collapsed at the finish line, and cried into the grass. A volunteer asked if he needed medical. He said, "I need her." They thought he was delirious. Fall painted the city gold. Nuella's students performed at Lincoln Center, a free concert for public school kids. She wore a simple black dress, hair in a high puff, no jewelry except the subway token she'd fished from the river on a dare from Keisha. She sang My Funny Valentine a cappella. The audience, 500 children, held their breath. When she finished, they roared. Backstage, a little girl hugged her legs. "You sound like hope, Miss Nuella." Damien watched from the sound booth, unseen, uninvited. He left before the encore, but not before slipping a note into the program. "Hope sounds like you. D. October 30th. Nuella stood in her bedroom, the red envelope from last year pinned to the wall like a dare. She hadn't opened the new one that arrived yesterday. Same handwriting, same ticket. Keisha zipped her into the gold gown, now altered to fit the woman she'd become. Stronger shoulders, softer curves, a scar on her knee from a stage dive gone wrong. "You sure?" Keisha asked. Nuella touched the subway token. "No. But I'm going anyway." Across town, Damien stood in the mansion's ballroom, now stripped to the bones. No furniture, no chandeliers, just fairy lights and a single chair in the center. He wore the gold mask, cracked foil and all, and waited. Guests had been told to come masked, but the house was empty. He'd sent only one invitation. 11:47 p.m. The front door creaked. Footsteps, sneakers on marble. Nuella appeared in the doorway, gown catching the light like liquid sunlight. She held the cabin key. He held his breath. They didn't speak. Just walked toward each other, slow as a wedding processional. When they met in the center, Damien lifted the mask from his face. His eyes were red-rimmed, but clear. "I waited," he said. "I see. I didn't fix anything. I just became someone who doesn't need fixing." Nuella studied him, thinner, sun-browned, hands calloused from garden dirt. The man who'd once owned half the skyline now looked like he belonged on a fire escape. "I became someone who doesn't need saving," she said. They stood in silence, the year stretching between them like a bridge neither had burned. Finally, Damien spoke. "Dance with me." "No music." "We'll make it." He held out his hand. She took it. They swayed, barefoot on the cold floor, her cheek against his heartbeat. After a minute, she started humming, at last, soft and low. He joined in, off-key but earnest. Their voices twined, filling the empty house. When the song ended, Nuella stepped back. "I'm not moving in," she said. "Not yet. I have a lease. A life. Students who need me." Damien nodded. "I have a garden. A jeep. A chair." He gestured to the single seat. Plenty of room for 2 fire escape climbers. Nuella laughed, really laughed, the sound echoing off the walls. "Slow," she said. "Dating. Like normal people. Coffee. Movies. No penthouses. Deal." He pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside, 2 subway tokens, shiny and new. One for each of us. So we always find our way home. Nuella took one, closed his fingers around the other. "Home isn't a place," she said. "It's a choice." They left the mansion hand in hand, the gold gown trailing behind her like a comet tail. Outside, the city was quiet, Halloween over, dawn creeping in. They walked to the gate, where the jeep waited, pumpkin still in the passenger seat from last year, now carved into a lantern with a heart cut out. Damien opened the door for her, not the back, the front. She climbed in. He slid behind the wheel. Before starting the engine, he turned to her. "1 year ago, you crashed my party," he said. "Tonight, you crashed my heart, again. And I've never been happier to be robbed." Nuella leaned over, kissed him soft and slow. "Drive, billionaire. We've got a year to make up for." The jeep rumbled to life. They pulled away from the mansion, fairy lights fading in the rear view, 2 tokens clinking together in the cup holder like wind chimes. Behind them, the empty ballroom glowed. 1 chair, 1 mask, 1 love finally ready to stay. October 31st, 1 year to the minute after the night that began everything. Blackwood Manor stood open to the city, gates flung wide, no velvet ropes, no guest list, no security wands. A hand-painted banner stretched across the portico, "Crashers welcome, masks optional." Inside, the mansion had been gutted and reborn, chandeliers gone, replaced by a galaxy of Edison bulbs, marble floors covered in sawdust and rose petals, a taco truck parked in the foyer, its neon sign buzzing "Love Tacos, free for all." Damien had spent the year planning this, not with architects or event designers, but with Nuella's students, Mama Lou, Keisha, and a crew of Red Hook garden kids who now wore tool belts like superheroes. They'd sanded, painted, strung lights, and turned the ballroom into a living memory. One wall a mural of the Brooklyn Bridge at sunset, another a collage of subway tokens glued in the shape of a heart. The library, their library, now held a single bookshelf and 2 beanbags facing the fireplace. At 10:47 p.m., the party was in full swing. 2,000 people filled the halls, not billionaires, but neighbors. Harlem grandmothers in Sunday hats, Bronx teens in glow-stick masks, Wall Street analysts who traded suits for sneakers. A jazz quartet played on the grand staircase, a drag queen in a peacock gown emceed a costume contest, Mama Lou flipped burgers beside the taco truck, apron reading "Kiss the Cook," tips feed Nuella's kids. Damien stood at the edge of the ballroom in a simple black tux, no mask, subway token gleaming at his throat. He hadn't seen Nuella in 24 hours. She'd insisted on arriving like the first time, whatever that meant. His palms sweated. Malik, now 11 and missing only 1 front tooth, tugged his sleeve. "She's here," the boy whispered, eyes wide. "In the gold." Damien's heart stopped. Nuella stood in the doorway exactly as she had 1 year ago, gold gown, thrift store mask cracked to the cheek, but this time she wore gold-painted sneakers and carried a bouquet of bodega roses tied with twine. Her curls were swept up, a single white streak at the temple, stress or wisdom, she hadn't decided. Behind her, Keisha and Mama Lou flanked like honor guards, both in matching gold sneakers. The quartet hushed. The crowd parted. Nuella walked forward, slow and deliberate, roses brushing the floor. She stopped 3 feet from Damien, lifted the mask, and let it fall. It shattered on the marble, foil and cardboard, nothing more, and the sound was a gunshot of freedom. Damien's voice cracked over the microphone he hadn't realized he was holding. "Last year, someone crashed my party." He stepped down from the dais, boots crunching on mask shards. "They said she didn't belong. But that night, I met the only person who ever saw me, not my money, not my name, me." The room fell silent. Even the taco truck turned off its grill. Nuella's eyes shone, but she didn't move. Damien continued, voice steady now. "I spent a year learning how to be the man she deserved. I sold yachts. I planted tomatoes. I learned to make pancakes without burning them, mostly." Laughter rippled. "I learned that love isn't a transaction. It's a choice. Every day. And I choose you, Nuella Stacy. If you'll have me." He dropped to one knee. The crowd gasped. From his pocket he pulled not a ring box, but the cabin key, now polished and strung on a gold chain beside a tiny diamond that caught every light in the room. "I'm not asking you to marry me tonight," he said. "I'm asking you to choose me back. Slow. Messy. Real. With garden dirt and fire escape climbs and all the mornings we haven't lived yet." Nuella's breath hitched. She looked at the key, then at him, then at the sea of faces, her people, his people, their people. Mama Lou nodded. Keisha wiped tears with a taco napkin. Malik held up a sign, "Say yes, Miss Nuella." Nuella stepped forward, took the key, and slipped it over her own neck beside the subway token. Then she knelt too, so they were eye to eye. "I choose you too," she said, loud enough for the back row. "But on one condition." "Anything." "We get married here. Tonight. No planners. No 1,200 guests. Just us, our family, and whoever brought the good salsa." Damien laughed, wild, free, the sound of a man reborn. He stood, pulled her up with him, and kissed her like the world was ending and beginning in the same breath. The crowd exploded, cheers, whistles, someone set off a confetti cannon made from a leaf blower and tissue paper. Mama Lou officiated, ordained online for $25, she announced proudly. Keisha was maid of honor. Malik held the rings, 2 subway tokens soldered into circles, engraved inside, "Choose daily." The jazz quartet played at last, as Nuella walked down an aisle of rose petals and sneaker prints, her mother on her arm, tears shining. They wrote their vows on the spot, whispered into each other's ears so only the other could hear, then spoke them aloud to the room. "Damien. I vow to burn the bacon and plant the tomatoes. To climb your fire escape at 3 a.m. when the nightmares come. To choose you when it's easy and when it's war. You are my home, Nuella Stacy. Today. Tomorrow. Every day after. Nuella. I vow to sing you awake when the dark gets loud. To keep 1 foot in Harlem and 1 in your garden. To crash your world every morning with coffee and courage. You are my magic, Damien Blackwood. Not the mansion. Not the money. You." Mama Lou pronounced them married at 11:59 p.m. The clock struck midnight as they kissed, Cinderella in reverse, the spell not breaking but binding. The crowd counted down from 10, then erupted into Auld Lang Syne mashed with "Lift every voice and sing." They danced until the tacos ran out. Nuella kicked off her sneakers, Damien rolled up his sleeves. Keisha caught the bouquet, a taco wrapped in gold foil. Malik led a conga line through the library. At 2 a.m., the newlyweds slipped away to the porch barefoot, sharing a plate of cold injera under the stars. "Think they'll write about this?" Nuella asked, mouth full. Damien grinned. Page 1, waitress marries billionaire in taco truck ceremony, love wins, stock soars. She laughed, head on his shoulder. "Think we'll make it?" He kissed her temple. "We already did." Inside, the party raged on. Outside, the city slept under a blanket of stars, unaware that 2 kids from opposite sides of the bridge had just rewritten the rules of fairy tales. The gold mask shards glittered on the ballroom floor, trod into dust by 1,000 dancing feet. By morning, they'd be swept away. But the story, the real one, had only just begun. What was the exact second you knew the masks were finally, truly off? Quote the vow that made you cry. Let's toast to choosing daily. The last guest left at 4:17 a.m., a Harlem grandmother in a feathered boa who kissed both their cheeks and declared, "Y'all done made history with them tacos." Mama Lou locked the gates behind her, pocketed the key, and winked. House is yours till sunrise. Don't break nothin' that can't be fixed with love. The mansion exhaled. String lights dimmed to a glow, the jazz quartet packed up, leaving a single trumpet case open for tips that overflowed with subway tokens and handwritten notes. Thank you for showing us Real love. Damien and Nuella stood alone in the ballroom, barefoot, confetti in their hair, the scent of roses and grilled onions thick in the air. Nuella kicked a shard of the broken mask. Guess we're officially unmasked. Damien bent, picked it up, and tucked it into his pocket. Souvenir, he said. For the kid we'll tell this story to someday. She raised an eyebrow. Kid, huh? He flushed, adorable and caught. Eventually. After the garden's bigger. After we master pancakes. Nuella laughed, took his hand, and led him up the grand staircase, their staircase now. Halfway up, she paused at the mural of the Brooklyn Bridge. Someone had added fresh paint while they danced. Tiny gold figures holding hands on the pedestrian walkway, a heart glowing between them. Malik, she guessed. And about 30 kids with too much glitter, Damien added. They reached the master suite, transformed. No four-poster bed or crystal sconces. Instead, a mattress on the floor covered in quilts from Nuella's mom, fairy lights strung like constellations, a record player spinning Billie Holiday low and slow. On the windowsill sat 2 mugs of cocoa, Keisha's doing, marshmallows shaped like subway tokens. Damien closed the door. The click echoed like a vow. Nuella turned to him, suddenly shy. Hi, husband. Hi, wife. He stepped closer, cupped her face. Still real. Realer than rent, she whispered. They kissed, not the desperate clash of the party, but slow, deliberate, like the first time in the library. His hands found the zipper of her gown, hers tugged his shirt free. Fabric pooled gold and black on the floor. They sank to the mattress, skin to skin, learning each other all over again. After, they lay tangled in quilts, city lights painting stripes across their bodies. Nuella traced the scar on his knuckle. Tell me something true. Damien thought, then smiled. I'm terrified of fatherhood. But I want it. With you. She kissed the scar. I'm terrified of losing myself. But I want it. With you. Outside, dawn crept pink over the skyline. Inside, they talked until the cocoa went cold, about gardens and Harlem stoops, about jazz camps and pancake disasters, about a brownstone with a porch swing and a kitchen big enough for Mama Lou's gumbo pot. They fell asleep mid-sentence, foreheads touching, the record spinning silent. They woke to Keisha banging a pot lid. Rise and shine, lovebirds. Pancakes wait for no marriage. The kitchen was chaos, Malik flipping batter into animal shapes, Mama Lou scolding him for wasting syrup, Keisha live-streaming to Nuella's students who screamed congratulations from a Bronx classroom. Damien burned the first batch. Nuella saved the second with a dash of vanilla and a kiss on his cheek. They ate on the counter, legs swinging, syrup on their chins like kids. By noon, the mansion was theirs, deeded to a non-profit, Nuella's name on the board. It would become the Crasher Community House, after-school programs, jazz workshops, a garden in the back where tomatoes would grow beside callaloo. Damien kept the library. Nuella kept the fire escape, now painted gold. They honeymooned in the Catskills cabin, no phones, no Wi-Fi, just snow and firelight and the creak of the porch swing. Nuella taught Damien to make cornbread, he taught her to chop wood. They made love on every surface, laughed until their sides hurt, and cried once, happy tears, when a deer wandered up to the window and stared like it approved. Spring brought cherry blossoms and a positive test. Nuella told him on the Brooklyn Bridge at sunset, holding up a tiny gold sneaker. Damien dropped to his knees right there on the pedestrian walkway, kissed her belly, and proposed again, properly this time, with a ring made from the melted-down mansion chandelier crystals. She said yes before he finished the sentence. Summer meant block parties and baby kicks. Nuella's belly grew round under sundresses. Damien's garden flourished, tomatoes the size of softballs, basil that smelled like heaven. They took Lamaze classes at the community center, Damien practicing breathing while Malik timed contractions on a stopwatch. Fall painted the city gold again. On the anniversary of the wedding, they renewed vows in the garden. Just family, just tacos, just love. Nuella wore the gold gown, now altered into a maternity masterpiece. Damien wore the same black tux, now patched at the elbow from garden work. Mama Lou officiated again, this time with a real license framed on the wall. Winter brought their daughter, Billie Holiday Blackwood Stacy, born at 3:12 a.m. in the same hospital where Nuella's mom had fought for life. She had her mother's curls and her father's storm-gray eyes. Damien cut the cord with shaking hands. Nuella sang God Bless the Child through tears. Years blurred into mornings. Billie's first steps on the brownstone stoop, her first word jazz, her first subway ride clutching 2 tokens, one from each parent. Nuella opened a music school in Harlem, Crash Course Academy, scholarships for every kid who couldn't pay. Damien ran the nonprofit, dirt under his nails, pride in his eyes. They fought, over laundry, over schedules, over whose turn it was to change diapers, and made up on the fire escape under stars that knew their names. One Halloween, when Billie was 5, they hosted the Little Crashers Ball at the community house. Kids in thrift store masks danced under string lights while Nuella sang and Damien flipped pancakes shaped like hearts. Billie wore the cracked gold mask, now patched with duct tape and love. She tugged Nuella's sleeve. "Mommy, did you really crash Daddy's party?" Nuella knelt, adjusted the mask. "I did." And he crashed right back. Damien joined them, syrup on his shirt, eyes soft. Best crash landing ever. They danced, 3 of them now, a family stitched from courage and tacos and subway tokens. The mural on the wall had grown. Gold figures on the bridge now included a little girl with pigtails, a heart glowing brighter than ever. On their 10th anniversary, they returned to the mansion, now a community hub buzzing with kids. They climbed to the roof at midnight, city sparkling below. Nuella wore the gold gown, patched and faded but still magic. Damien wore the tux, elbow patch now a badge of honor. He pulled the original mask shard from his wallet, worn smooth from years in his pocket. Still got it. She took it, pressed it to her heart. Still us. They kissed under the same stars that had watched them fall, fight, and choose each other every day since. Below, the city hummed, their city, built on hope and courage and the kind of love that didn't follow rules. It rewrote them. 20 years later. Billie, now 25, a jazz vocalist with her mother's fire and her father's quiet strength, stood on the Brooklyn Bridge at sunset. She held a gold-painted sneaker in one hand, a subway token in the other. Beside her, a nervous young man in a thrift store suit fidgeted. "Ready?" she asked. He nodded. "For you? Always." She smiled, Nuella's smile, and led him across the walkway, toward the brownstone with the porch swing and the kitchen that always smelled of gumbo. Behind them, the skyline glowed gold, a city that had learned from 2 kids who crashed a party and built a life. Sometimes the greatest love stories begin with the greatest mistakes. And sometimes, when you choose daily, fight bravely, and love without masks, they never end. What moment in their ever after made you believe love can last a lifetime? Quote the line that felt like home. Thank you for crashing this story with us.
From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for tuning in and watching this video. You being here is the best encouragement I could ask for. The simplest and best way to show your support and tell me you want to see more content is to like this video and subscribe to the channel. That's your way of sending me love. I don't want the adventure to stop yet, though. To enjoy more thrilling videos, go ahead and click the next video thumbnail you see right now. Enjoy and thanks again.